Hi, time for a chime video. So today on the workbench we have a NuTone electronically controlled 8-note door chime base. And this particular one is from 1990. It was sent in by a customer who it was given to by its previous or original owner, not sure who that person was exactly. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details of this, we're going to start with a quiz. How many times in how many videos have I said, don't oil the plungers? Lots. Thousands? I don't know. Lots and lots and lots of times. And actually, if you look really carefully right here on the chime base, on the sticker right here, it says clearly in red big uppercase letters with a line underneath it, do not oil plungers. This video is about the most extreme example of oiled plungers that I've ever seen. What you're looking at are 3 of the 4 plungers and 1 of the springs that I had to go to extreme measures to get out of the solenoids in this chime base. This was not done apparently by the fellow who sent this in to me. This was done probably by the previous owner. Something was put into the plungers and they were completely and totally stuck inside the solenoid tubes. The solenoid tubes are the brass tubes that the plungers fit into. There's a spring and then the plunger goes in and then a cap. They were completely and totally frozen into the solenoid tubes. The fellow who sent this to me, he actually set it up and put lighter fluid, which is the right thing to use, and soaked it for 3 or 4 days to try to loosen them up to push them out. Couldn't get them out. Eventually he got a hold of me. He sent it to me to have it repaired. I skipped over the lighter fluid thing because he had already tried that. We tried several different fluids to see what we could do. I tried paint thinner. That didn't work. I tried acetone. That didn't work. I didn't want to use lacquer thinner because the wire that makes up the coils in the solenoids is a copper wire with a varnish coating, and I was worried that the lacquer thinner, if it got on the windings of the coil, could melt the lacquer and cause a short and ruin the coil. So we didn't want to do that. I talked to him yesterday and told him I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen. I let it soak overnight with the acetone, which is a pretty good choice to see what would happen. Didn't make any improvement at all. I told him I would try my very best to figure out a way to get it taken apart. And this morning I came up with an idea. But before we talk about the idea, let me show you as a comparison. So this is one of the 4 springs that came out. The other ones I haven't gotten out yet. And you can see it's all crudted up with whatever this sticky stuff that's kind of hard and plasticky. I don't know what it is, but that's a damaged spring compared to a brand new spring next to it. That's what it's supposed to look like. And then these plungers have this sticky residue all over them, and some of it's kind of green and seems kind of plasticky, and I don't have any idea what it is. But again, that's what a proper plunger looks like. Or we can put it that way, or maybe we'll put it over here where you can see it better. Shiny, clean metal rod with a plastic tip. One of the considerations also in trying to come up with some kind of solvent to use to loosen these up and push them out is I didn't want to use anything that could damage the plastic tip, because the plastic tips on these are molded onto a flange on the end of the plunger, and if they melt, then repairing them becomes 3 times as hard. This should be a warning to everyone. Don't oil your plungers. This is what happens. It creates a huge problem. Not only, so I got these 3 out, but these all have to be thoroughly cleaned, and then there will be probably just as much residue inside the solenoid bores, inside the brass tubes, and those have to be cleaned out thoroughly also. We have to get back down to clean, shiny brass, because the plungers have to move through the solenoids freely, and if there's gummy, sticky stuff in there, it's not going to work very well, or at all. So that's a problem. So let me show you what I came up with to finally get these out this morning, and fortunately it went better than I would have thought. All right, so I have the chime base sitting upside down. This solenoid, and this solenoid, the plungers have already been removed. The spring came out of one of them. I have to go back and get the springs out of the other 2 still, but I want to get the 4th one out first. So what occurred to me that I could try is whatever this substance is that has these things frozen in there. When I say frozen in there, I really mean that. I used a small diameter nut driver and inserted it into the front and then into the back and pushed as hard as I possibly could without ruining things, and could not get the plungers to budge at all. In fact, one of them, when I pushed from the back, I pushed hard enough that it actually slid the brass tube through the coil and pushed it out through the front some, which is very, very bad because you run the risk of damaging the coil. So you can't do it that way. You can't use brute force on this. You have to come up with a better way to do it. And what occurred to me this morning, which is a method I have used on other things, is I thought maybe if we heat up the brass tube some, it will soften up whatever this stuff is that's in there that's made the plunger become stuck, and then if it softens up enough, then maybe we can push them out. And apparently I was right. So how are we going to do this? Because the considerations on this are, while the tube is brass, that's good. The plunger is steel, that's good. But the tip of the plunger is plastic or nylon or something like that. And we don't want to melt it and ruin it, because then fixing it is really, really difficult. Also, we have to consider that there is a coil inside the casing, and we don't want to heat the coil up and damage the varnish insulation on the wire of the coil, because that'll ruin the coil. And also the coil is wrapped in some plastic tape. I think it could be capped on tape, or it could be something before they had capped on tape. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We don't want to melt that either. And then also the wires of the coil come out here at the bottom. They're inside these little blue plastic tubes. We don't want to melt the plastic tubes either. That wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen, but we want to be careful. The goal here is to make it better, not to ruin it. What I decided to do was I took my soldering iron and I put on the largest tip that I have. So this is a wide tip. It's about 1/4 of an inch wide or so. This is the size of tip that I solder with on a regular basis when I'm working on circuit boards, unless it's really big, heavy duty circuit board work. And then you need the bigger tip because it has more thermal mass. And what that means is, because it's bigger, chunkier, heavier, it retains more heat, so you can solder bigger things with it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to clean off. It's on now. It's hot. It's set to 750 degrees, which is my normal operating temperature. And what I need to do is I need to lean this on the tube. And in this case, I would prefer to put it on the top, but it's tricky because I have to find a way to have good contact. So like that. Now, that might seem silly. It's sort of wedged in there at an angle. The flat side of the soldering iron tip is resting up against the brass tube, but that's how I did the other three. And I can tell that it's maintaining its temperature, because on the soldering iron control base station, there's a little LED that flashes to let you know that it's heating up. It's maintaining its 750 degree temperature. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on here. It'll take about maybe 10 minutes or so, and it will soften up whatever the goo is inside, and hopefully I'll be able to push the plunger and the spring out. So I'm going to pause the video and then I'll be back. Oh, and I know when it's going to be ready because you can smell it across the shop. It has this weird, like burning kind of smell as it heats up. So I'll be back shortly. All right, I'm back. So it's been about 10-15 minutes. I was working at my desk and I could smell the hot heat burning smell like I did on the first three. And I think it's probably close enough now to give it a try. So I'm going to move the soldering iron away. And I'm going to use my little nut driver, and I'm simply going to put it into the front and then push and push, and here comes the plunger. Plop, just like that. And since it's bound to be hot, I need my needle nose pliers. And what are we going to do with it? We're going to put it in the metal cup, because that's what we do around here. The other thing I want to try to do is push out the spring, if there is a spring. I do not know. If there was, seems like it should have come out by now. There it is. So a gunked up spring with all kinds of crud on it. So I have 2 of the 4 springs out. I have to go back and get the other 2 out also. But before I do that, one of the things I want to check real quick is I want to make sure that our heating process has not damaged the coils, which I don't think it will have. So what I'm going to do, the easiest way to do it is I'm going to measure the coils real quick. Not the most exciting thing to watch a guy do, but what are you going to do? So I've got my ohm meter set up. One lead can go on the common terminal, the other ones, so that one about 19 ohms, that one about 17 ohms, that one 19, and that one about 19 also. So they're all close enough. You want them all to be similar. If you figure plus or minus 10%, that's pretty good. That's what you want. So that's what I had to do to get the plungers out of the hugely stuck solenoids. As I am inclined to do, I am now going to shake my finger at everybody. For anyone who has watched this, who has perhaps a similar project, and this slow, even heating of things to get things apart is a valid method to use on many things, but as many people are inclined to do, they'll watch this video, see what I did, which I tried to do carefully, thoughtfully, and thoroughly, and what they'll get out of it is, I'm going to go to the garage and I'm going to bust out the butane torch and fire it up and heat things up with it like this, and that'll be great. And I'm here to tell you, no, that's wrong. Okay? You don't, the point of this is to make the chime better, to fix it and make it work again. There are no shortcuts in the right ways to do things. I can just see somebody with a butane torch going trying to heat things up to get the, and sure, maybe they get the plungers out and then they fry the coils and the solenoids, and then that's a problem. And you would be surprised how many people I talk to who won't take good advice based on experience on how to do things. They simply don't listen. They're sure that their way is better, even though it's something they have never done before, and then they end up ruining whatever it is that they have, and then they're surprised that if they want to send it to me, it's going to take more to fix it than it would have been in the first place because they made it worse. So don't make it worse. Do it carefully. This is a good method to do this. You saw it work. It worked on all 4, which is great. I'm actually going to edit this video and send it to the owner of the chime because I'm sure he's concerned because our conversation yesterday, it did not seem promising at the moment. Fortunately, I thought about it a little bit overnight and came up with a good idea that actually worked. And that's great. I hope you found this interesting, and perhaps for someone it will be helpful. If it is, give it a thumbs up on YouTube because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.